Alright, guys, it is Friday for me right now, and right now, I just got out of school a couple hours ago, and yeah, currently, I'm starting to stream again, and I'm kind of having more of a set up, streaming schedule now, and hopefully that gives me the opportunity and stuff to focus on the things I have to do. I do enjoy streaming, but there's other stuff I gotta do besides that, but yeah. Doesn't mean I quit though. But um Funky Friday, guys. Bro, who unsubbed? Guys, I can't believe it. We are almost the 500 subs, guys. And Senna beat me, but I don't care about that.
Yay, 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 yay. Bro, you're not even Daisy09. Yay, 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 yay. This is how to make Echo. So, first we need the sun hat, because Echo wears a sun hat, yes? And, get in there, please. Get in there. Echo's a ghost, so we need the long arms. Oh, yeah. Okay, come in here, and mix, 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 mix. The finished product is coming out in 3, 2, 1. Echo? Oh, I forgot, she's definitely dangerous. What are you doing?
Hey, I don't want pizza. I want tacos.
Okay, well, this is Pizza Hut. If you want tacos, you're gonna have to call somewhere else.
Should I call Taco Bell?
Yeah.
Taco Bell.
Hey, I want pizza. Hey.
Upcoming fan art.
Hello, I'm Sidna VR.
Also, guys. Oh, shit, no. My Eagle Bucks. Let me show you guys something. So, let me turn on my camera. I need to turn my camera for this. Hey, guys. Alright. So, of course, y'all know Kenjaku, right? From JJK? This guy? Yeah. So, I made a fan art of Senna VR's old avatar, and here's how it looks. I'm gonna post this on my community post. I'm gonna do that right now. How do I post fan art on my community post? It's like Kenjaku. But I'll post it on my Discord server though. Bye. Have a wonderful day there tomorrow, okay? You too. Love you. Bye. Love you. Love you. Bye. Over. Okay, so I'm gonna send it on my community post at the moment, so yeah. Yeah, only that. So I can't post like art on my phone because I have like parental controls and shit on my phone. So usually what I do is I hop on Discord. Okay. Oh, yes. Uh, oh, bro, I can't. Okay, I'm posting it on my community post. Alright, I posted the art on my channel. When am I gonna stream again? Well, I'm streaming right now. Yuji's domain expansion fan animation. Ads suck. I mean, this sucks because it's literally an ad.
点もある。一つは環境要因によるステータス上昇。もう一つ、領域内で発動した付与された術式は絶対当たる。領域展開。これは何だ。行くぞ。そうかな。
Why is this actually so good? That's so good. Mappa's gonna hunt this guy. For real.
Domain expansions are the absolute best ability in Jujutsu Kaisen, but which one is the best, and which one is the worst?
I ain't trying to glaze on Sukuna, but it's definitely Malevolent Shrine. Ah, so cool.
Are there even
ain't trying
any
to glaze
bad
on it,
ones?
you know what I
Well,
mean, bro?
no, but there are definitely some that are better than others.
Oh.
So today we'll be going through all of them to figure out which of
Not gonna lie, self-embodiment and perfection, the way Mahito opens his domain and like his face open, and like you see the like mouth coming out. Yeah, your hands coming out of his mouth.
the
It's
13
kinda
is the
ew.
best one. This is the general criteria I used, and let's get into this. The worst domain in Jujutsu Kaisen as it stands now is probably Chimera Shadow Garden. Chimera Shadow Garden isn't a bad domain because there are no bad domains.
I mean, it's not really bad. It's that it's incomplete.
The reason
but
I put it in
I thought it was pretty dope to see Megami pull out his domain expansion for the first time.
last is because it just doesn't give its user that much strength, at least not compared to the other domains that exist. The domain allows its user to flood an area with the shadows of the 10 Shadows technique, which can then be used extremely flexibly, as any of the Shadows Shikigami can be summoned from the pool without the need for hand signs. This provides the user with a lot of utility, but it doesn't actually make the user all that much stronger, at least not with the iterations we've seen from Megumi. It's entirely possible that Mahoraga is even more broken in this domain, or that the spine we see is some sort of secret 11th Shikigami. But because we never see either of these things happen, they're not something I can take into account. The other major reason this domain is down here is that Chimera Shadow Garden is the only domain expansion in the show that is not complete, as it relies on naturally occurring walls for its barriers. This means it's the only domain in the series that does not have a sure hit of any kind, and it also highly limits its usability, as it cannot be used in any battles that take place outside. Fitting for an ability that belongs to Mr. Potential, this domain could be absolutely broken if Megumi had more time to mature with it, but he didn't, and as a result, it sits in last. But only by a bit, because the next worst domain is another Shikigami-based one. It's Horizon of the Captivating Skanda belonging to Dagon. This domain is less
Oh, that's too beautiful to be a domain, not gonna lie.
cool than Megumi's, but it should give you a good idea of what his domain is going up against in terms of strength. Horizon of the Captivating
Side Dagon had a pretty cool character design, but bro got beat up by Toji so fast. And the fact that Toji had absolutely zero curse energy.
Skanda allows Dagon to summon hundreds
I can
of
do
invisible
that.
Shikigami
Yeah,
that
I
do
can
not
do that.
appear until they are biting onto their target. This functions as a very effective sure hit, as it was able to damage first grade sorcerers with very little issue. It did permanent damage to Nanami and Nobito despite his anti-domain technique. If Megumi and Toji had not intervened, then the three fighting Dagon would have lost to him without a doubt, which shows the domain's strength. But if we're being honest, this isn't even that strong for a domain. Considering the degree of damage done to the sorcerers in the domain and the speed at which it was done, any sorcerer with reverse curse technique should be able to nullify the effects of Deathstorm with relatively little issue. And when you compare this to some of the other domains we have to talk about, which can one-shot opponents and basically do the same exact thing but 1,000 times better,
Metal Transfiguration is such like a OP ability, because like if you see a dude with the blue hair and stitch work it and stitches all over, then and if he touches you and then just says idle transfiguration, you're cooked.
it really shows how middling this domain is. At 11, we have the Smallpox Deities domain. Putting this above Dagon's domain might come as a surprise, and to be honest, I went back and forth on these two a lot, but in the end, I came to this conclusion. Dagon is undoubtedly the stronger cursed spirit of the two, but the Smallpox Deities domain is much more effective for its purpose. Instead of sending a bunch of Shikigami to suckle on opposing sorcerers, the Smallpox Deity simply puts its target in a box and then kills them if they can't escape by the count of 3. If they do escape, they get put back into the box immediately if they are in the line of sight of the deity. This makes the domain extremely effective for 1v1 battles, as it is almost impossible for the opponent to win unless they have a domain of their own, or are just overwhelmingly stronger, which isn't likely considering this is a special grade cursed spirit. Its weak point though is battles with multiple people, as it seems like the deity is only capable of putting one sorcerer in a box at a time. In a lot of ways, it is almost the exact opposite of Dagon's domain, because his domain is uniquely good at dealing with crowds. In reality, these two domains could probably be tied, but personally, I think it's more important to have an easy time killing an opponent rather than being able to deal with multiple opponents at once. So it goes over Dagon. Rounding out the top 10 is Idle Death Gambit. Yeah, once. So it goes over Dagon.
Why is Dagon's in his cursed room actually look so adorable?
Rounding out the top 10 is Idle Death Gambit. Yeah, I was surprised too, but looking at the rest of the domains we have to talk about, Idle Death Gambit just has to be here. While the effect of giving its user unlimited cursed energy is good, it doesn't give them the same offensive power as any other domain, even the other non-lethal ones. From what we've seen, the unlimited cursed energy doesn't seem to make Hikari all that strong, as both Kashimo and Uraume have been able to hold their own against it without any sort of buff. But that's mostly because it's not the main advantage of this domain, as the real value of this unlimited cursed energy is the near immortality the user gains via automatic reverse curse technique, which heals the user faster than even
I can't wait to see Hikari in the anime. He's gonna be so cool. Fucking dancing, bro.
Gojo and Sukuna can. While this is a broken ability, capable sorcerers will just wait until the automatic reverse curse technique ends, which it will eventually, to make their hardest assault. We saw this with Kashimo waiting until the ability ran out to use his electricity, almost costing Hikari his life if he hadn't gotten a very lucky roll. The other big issue with this ability is how long it lasts. A lot of Jujutsu Kaisen battles take a good amount of time, so an ability that lasts 4 minutes and 11 seconds will have to be activated at least a few times against stronger opponents, meaning it's extremely unlikely for this ability to carry a sorcerer through an entire battle. If this ability lasted longer, I'd say it could move higher up, but it doesn't, and that kind of holds the domain back. I know, I don't like it either. So let's just move on to number 9, which is Yozuru's domain, Threefold Affliction. Seeing this one above
So I think Yorozuru's a weird ass character, bro. Bro, like I don't like. Bro, I don't even care. I don't even give a shit what happens to Hirozu, bro. I don't give a shit what happens to her, bro. I don't even fucking care anymore, bro.
Idle Death Gambit might be a surprise, but this domain is actually pretty broken. It's just that we saw it go up against Sukuna, which made it look weak. Kinda like Jogo, who we'll be talking about in a little bit. Threefold Affliction basically ensures that
Bro, Jogo's such a pussy for not, using his domain on Sukuna in the battle in Shibuya. I mean, it's kind of reasonable, considering how he got PTSD from using his domain because Gojo absolutely fucking humiliated this dude. But it is understandable. But domain expansions are completely broken as hell.
all of Yozuru's constructions will hit their targets via the sure hit effect. This is good in general because all of Yozuru's constructs are pretty powerful, but it pairs best with Perfect Sphere, as the construct should, in theory, destroy anything it comes in contact with, thanks to exerting infinite pressure.
Imagine how bro, it just looks like a whole black dot.
It's a combination that really shouldn't be beat.
Easy, bro. I bet the Great Sphere, or whatever what you call it, is like freaking the most easiest thing that Gege had to draw. It was like you could, cause like bro could have used like a circle tool or something. I don't know.
Beaten in Yozuru's domain, meaning the main way to beat
In fact,
this domain is with a more refined domain, which probably isn't all that common. This pretty much gives Yozuru
volume 17.
a guaranteed win against any sorcerer that is weaker than her, and that's a huge benefit compared to any of the domains that exist below her.
Ready to unlock Roblox digital gift cards? Start earning with my...
How about you go buy your own in the store?
At 8 we have Womb Profusion, the domain belonging to Kenjaku. This domain is weird to rank. On one hand, the domain itself doesn't seem all that strong. Its effect is basically to force a huge amount of gravity on anyone within Kenjaku's domain. This was able to do decent damage to Yuki, but even then, it was really only one of her arms that she had to heal. This implies that the domain itself probably doesn't have all that much power, but it does belong to Kenjaku, who is the second best barrier user in the series behind Tengen. This means the domain could be extremely refined, making it hard to counter. In fact, this domain seems extremely adept at destroying anti-domain techniques like Simple Domain, as Yuki's was stripped away in a matter of panels. It seems like this is a domain that is meant to be good in a battle of domains rather than a domain that is good for combat in general, if that makes sense. This means it could potentially be a lot of the domains on this list, but we've only seen it used in a single situation, so it's really hard to say. Between this and Kenjaku's general strength with barriers, Womb Profusion is by far the weirdest.
Bro, I'm not gonna lie. It's gonna sound weird, but Kenjaku looks better in Ghetto's body than than actually Ghetto, bro. Like, you see Ghetto and JJK0, like, bro, like, weird as hell, but Kenjaku, he's kind of bad. Like, no diddy, bro, no diddy.
Domain to rank. It could be much stronger than I'm giving it credit for, but due to the lack of evidence, I can't really justify putting it any higher. At 7, we have the other non-lethal domain, Deadly Sentencing. Deadly Sentencing is an extremely versatile domain that can effectively nerf Higuruma's opponents in almost any situation. The domain is dependent on Judgeman finding the defendant, Higuruma's opponent, guilty of a crime they may have committed. This is dependent on evidence and the defendant's rebuttal to Higuruma's claims, so technically they could come out of the domain unscathed, but that's just really unlikely unless they're also a lawyer. If the opponent is found guilty, they suffer a huge debuff, losing access to their curse technique or their cursed energy in general if they don't have one. This is huge. It can put almost any opponent in a disadvantageous position against Higuruma, and he can use it to win against much stronger opponents than he would normally be able to. But that's not all. If Higuruma is facing an opponent that has done a crime worthy of the death penalty, Higuruma gains the Executioner's Sword, which is a sword that can kill anything it touches with just one touch. This ability is insane, but it does have a pretty high condition to activate, and that's actually the exact reason this domain isn't higher, as some domains we still have to talk about can just kill whoever is in the domain with no condition. For instance, at 6, we have Coffin of the Iron Mountain. You might be surprised to see this domain so high up, but I can explain it in one sentence. According to Gojo, this domain would burn the average sorcerer to a crisp in a matter of seconds. That's how hot the heat in this domain is. While you could say that Gojo is overrating the domain to make a point, when we do see Jogo come in contact with some sorcerers, his fire outside his domain leaves them scorched in a matter of seconds, so I don't think it would be too surprising if this level of heat was possible for his domain as well. Plus, it is modeled after the inside of a volcano, which can get up to 2000 degrees Fahrenheit, so I don't think it's a super inaccurate statement. Unfortunately, we don't know much else about this domain because we only got to see it once, so we don't know what the sure hit actually is, and we don't know how it would interact with anti-domain techniques either. We also know it's less effective against the upper echelon of sorcerers, as Gojo was able to withstand the heat even though domains can bypass infinity. In my opinion, this domain is the very peak of what a normal domain with no extra effects can reach. It is an extremely powerful domain despite what I've said so far. It just gets outclassed by the domains that we haven't talked about yet, as most of them have specific effects that make them stronger, like Cursed Noya's domain Time Cell Moon Palace, which is at number 5, by the way. That was my transition. I'm so good at this. Anyway, Time Cell Moon Palace is pretty much the exact opposite of Jogo's. It has no environmental effects, but has a completely broken sure hit. It essentially pushes the projection sorcery technique to the absolute limit, injecting frames of animation into the opponent's body as the sure hit, which then wreaks havoc on their body by freezing individual cells. This alone can cause internal hemorrhaging.
Bro, I fucking hate Noranderreo, bro. He's such a sexist ass bitch, bro. Bitch, bro. Like, I fucking hate him, bro.
And damage to organs. But if the victim moves, it can go as far as severing whole limbs. While this isn't as outright deadly as Jogo's domain, it can easily lead to more wins as it basically immobilizes opponents, preventing them from attacking and, more importantly, making countering with a domain nearly impossible, as the opponent's arms will get severed before they can make the hand signs necessary for a domain. Really, the only sorcerers that might be able to beat it are Gojo and Sukuna thanks to their ability to regrow limbs, Jackpot Hakari for obvious reasons, and any sorcerer that can move at 24 frames per second, of which there is one. It is a truly broken domain that can really only be beaten by anti-domain techniques or a stronger opponent opening their domain first. At 4th, we have a domain that kind of combines the past two to become even more effective. Mahito's domain, Self-Embodiment of Perfection. This domain uses Idle Transfiguration as a guaranteed hit, which is obviously very broken as the domain is able to one-shot a wide variety of sorcerers. The damage it does to sorcerers that it doesn't kill is also hard to heal because it does damage directly to the soul, and this applies to literally anyone that steps foot in the domain automatically. So Mahito can pretty much kill whoever he wants, whenever he wants, within his domain. We saw this used to remove Toto's hand in Shibuya, and it was also almost used on Nanami as well in Season 1. Both times Mahito intended to kill with the Idle Transfiguration, but he did fail, much like me in my college calculus class. Regardless, we all know how deadly base Idle Transfiguration is, and considering curse techniques get stronger when they're in their domain, it would be even more deadly here. But you know what's better than a domain like Self-Embodiment of Perfection? A domain that can imbue Idle Transfiguration into its barrier only when needed, because that's pretty much what Yuta's domain can do, and his domain is the one that comes in third place. Mutual Authentic Love allows Yuta to imbue one of his copied curse techniques into the barrier of his domain, so it acts as the guaranteed hit. This means Jacob's Ladder, Sukuna's technique, and so many more can act as a guaranteed hit, and there's no way to know which one it is until he activates it, unless it's obvious like in Sukuna's case. To be clear, this does not mean that he copies the domain of whatever technique he has copied, just that he can make the technique itself a guaranteed hit. So he can't copy the constant slashing afforded by Sukuna's domain, but he can make cleave or dismantle the sure hit. This is still great though, as pretty much any technique in the show can be used as a sure hit while being charged by Yuta's huge pool of cursed energy, which will make maximum output variations obscenely strong. Depending on how many techniques he has copied, he can pretty much just counterpick abilities that are bad matchups for his opponents. It is a very intentionally broken domain expansion, but unfortunately it just cannot be as strong as the top two, which are of course Malevolent Shrine and Unlimited Void. But which domain is worse of the two? While they are equal in power and refinement, there is one that I think is better as a domain, and it's not Malevolent Shrine, meaning that it comes in at number 2. Don't get me wrong, Malevolent Shrine is an amazing ability, that's why it's at number 2 in the first place. It is sure to kill almost anyone in the series, as the constant slashing of Cleave and Dismantle will be too much damage for 99% of opponents to deal with. On top of this, Sukuna himself can also attack while his domain is active, further pushing his advantage. But the most impressive thing about this domain is undoubtedly that it is the only barrierless domain in the entire series. Probably. There is some ambiguity surrounding Kinjaku's domain also being barrierless, but the general consensus seems to be that he used Tengen's barrier instead of creating his own, so his is still likely barriered. Anyway, Sukuna's domain being not barriered is an incredible feat. Described as being like a painter painting on thin air, it is a truly divine accomplishment, and it is fitting for an ability belonging to the strongest sorcerer in Jujutsu Kaisen. But to be honest, despite the feat of a barrierless domain, the effect of this domain itself is not the best in the series. That title goes to Unlimited Void, which in my opinion is the best domain in Jujutsu Kaisen. But I totally respect your opinion if you think the title should go to Malevolent Shrine. Both are the pinnacle of domains in their own way, but personally, I just think Unlimited Void is better purely because its effect is better. The mind-melting effect of Unlimited Void absolutely guarantees its user a win. Let me put it to you this way. In the Gojo and Sukuna fight, Gojo was able to survive the full ass-ripping effects of Sukuna's domain multiple times, coming out with moderate injuries each time but nothing he couldn't heal from. But when Sukuna was exposed to Unlimited Void for a fraction of a second, it rendered him completely unable to use his domain. If Mahoraga hadn't popped its puss at the exact perfect time, Sukuna would have just lost here. That's how much better the effect of Unlimited Void is than Malevolent Shrine. Sure, Malevolent Shrine has some
Maybe if Sukuna never not to be that guy, but maybe if Sukuna didn't unlock his world cutting slash, maybe Gojo would have won.
advantages, like being barrierless and having an area of effect as big as your mom. But do those really matter?
Really, buddy? You
When
serious?
Unlimited Void can turn an opponent into a shell of their former self the second it is activated? The answer is not really. And as such, Unlimited Void gets first place for me. Anyway, that's the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to join the Discord and follow me on Twitch because I am going to start streaming soon, and I'll see you again next week for another video.
That's cool. It's cool. I think that's pretty cool.
Do you need a free, easy way to capture your gameplay? Introducing
No.
Outplayed.
Alright. Next is gonna be rankings 8 sorcerer. based on how they did against Sukuna.
The fight against Sukuna was an all
I think the worst sorcerer is gotta be like Reggie or Remy. Cause like with her scorpion thing and she's just a fucking pussy, bro. Bro. Why does the toilet head from the update?
hands on deck effort, but whose hands were the most on deck? Who did the most to beat Sukuna in the Shinjuku Showdown, and who maybe could have given a little bit more? Let's find out. Here is the basic criteria I used, and let's get into it. Let's start with a couple of honorable mentions. There are two characters that are technically in the fight, but contribute absolutely nothing to the effort. The first one is Kirara, who's only in the fight for one single panel with Ui Ui. They literally do nothing at all besides carry Higuruma this one time, and they even seem to be in minimal planning shots as well. This makes sense, as Kusakabe says that they should only use sorcerers above a certain strength, and Kirara doesn't seem to have that much in the way of strength, no offense to them. The other sorcerer is a bit more complicated. It's Kamo. Kamo only appeared during training, so he didn't contribute anything directly to the fight against Sukuna.
Not gonna lie, I literally forgot that Kamo even existed, bro. No offense.
But he did contribute to teaching Yuji blood manipulation. We don't know exactly how much he aided in this process, but considering it said Chozo sucks as a teacher, it's likely his contributions were pretty significant. The reason he's just an honorable mention is partially because of this lack of contribution to the fight, but also because including him leads down a weird path. You know? Like, if we include someone just because they helped Yuji grow, does that mean we should also include people like Nanami or Mahito? Because they helped him grow too. Does that mean that they technically contributed to the fight against Sukuna? Should we include Toji because he contributed by giving Gojo his awakening? I don't think so. So, Kamo only exists on this list as an honorable mention. I also want to give honorable mentions to Megumi and Inumaki as well, as both of them did technically contribute even if they weren't actually there. So, our actual last place sorcerer is Meimei, who contributed in two main ways. The first is, of course, surveillance, as she gave information to all the supporting sorcerers while Gojo fought Meguna. This might not seem all that important, but without her surveillance, they would be missing important information like the status of Sukuna's domain. The other contribution was trying and failing to use Bird Strike on Sukuna. This is the main reason she's actually on this list, as it was an offensive attempt against Sukuna. But because it was a complete failure, we can't put her any higher than last. Another low performer is unfortunately the GOAT, Miwa. We all know the real reason Miwa wasn't in this fight was because she didn't want to embarrass Sukuna in his big moment. But unfortunately, we can't take that into account. Her actual contributions to the fight are pretty bad. I'm sure a lot of you didn't even notice she was in the fight in the first place, but she was. She saved Maki from Sukuna's domain with her simple domain. And that's it. But I do still think this is a bigger contribution than Meimei, because at least it did something, you know? Like, sure, it's minimal, but she still saved a life, and an important life at that. It's also pretty impressive that her simple domain was strong enough to survive Sukuna's domain for as long as it did. But without anything else, I can't place her any higher. Kind of like our person at 13th, Miguel, who is brought to you by Jujutsu Kaisen Phantom Parade. Don't miss out on the most of Jujutsu Kaisen can relive all of its iconic moments in the game, and now is the perfect time to claim your pre-registration rewards such as 7,500 cubes, which can be used for in-game gacha, as well as an SSR guaranteed gacha ticket, where you can select a character from 9 fan-favorite characters like Yuji and Gojo. He showed up, danced for like 3 actually did in the fight against Sukuna. It's pretty Jujutsu Kaisen 0. But when we look at what Miguel actually did, it's really quite strong based on what we see in launch festivities. Look, I love Miguel as a character, and he's obviously quite strong based on what we see in Jujutsu Kaisen 0. But when we look at what Miguel actually did in the fight against Sukuna, it's pretty minimal. He showed up, danced for like 3 panels, and dipped. I know the dude didn't want to be there in the first place, but still, he contributed way less than his weaker partner, which is crazy to me. It's also kind of hard to give Miguel more credit because we don't know exactly how effective his technique is. We know what it does, it buffs him and his allies while debuffing his opponent, but there's no visual indication to the reader of when this technique is active. And it's also completely impossible to tell how much of an effect it's actually having on the battle. Like, how can we tell when it's actually affecting Sukuna? We just can't. But we'll give him the benefit of the doubt by placing him near the bottom. At 12, we have another weird one in Chozo. Chozo is weird because he was in the fight for so long, but also did so little. Like, he was there from the 2nd or 3rd chapter of the fight and stays until the furnace. That's a lot of chapters, more than the majority of the characters in the fight. But what did he actually do? I feel like he just showed up, got ass blasted, recovered, and rejoined over and over again. He really only did 2 things of note. The first was helping Yuji with reverse curse technique that one time, and then also saving Yuji in his self-sacrifice. And while this does once again prove his devotion to his brothers, that's kind of all he contributed. No offensive contributions, just getting his ass ate for like 30 chapters straight. But that's still a pretty impressive time to survive against Sukuna, and it's a lot compared to the people below him, so he gets a solid 12. Next we have Kusakabe and Ino. These two are hard to rank comparatively because they did a very similar amount of nothing, and were both in the fight for pretty much the same amount of time. In a case like this, I think it's best that we look at their behind-the-scenes contributions, and in that case...
I'm getting bored. I'm getting bored already, bro. How long have I ever seen you for? Okay, let's stop now. Bye-bye.